Commencing Autopsy 3. Time, 21:04. 27-year-old female, infected with unknown pathogen. Blood analysis indicates virus. Provisional name is Pax-12. Deceased had traveled in China before returning home 2 weeks ago. That must have been pre-quarantine. Unknown if had contact with livestock, but I can definitely see evidence of insect bites. Deceased had reported coughing and sneezing with a high fever. I'm seeing a nasty rash, some abscesses around the abdominal cavity. Clear signs of immune suppression. Cause of death appears to be catastrophic organ failure. Findings match reports coming out of China. This is highly concerning. The deceased may still be infectious. I'm halting the autopsy in order to notify the authorities. Request a full lockdown of this facility. Effective immediately.
Boy, that is some intro. And I will say that that is about the most polished part of this version of Plague Inc. so far as we play Plague Inc. Evolved. Hello, my name is Rydo. We are starting a new game review series for Plague Inc. Evolved. If you don't know what Plague Inc. is, it is a cell phone game that came out about 3 years ago. It has some interesting points to it that when you first got it, you could either pay microtransactions, just a few microtransactions, or you could buy the whole game outright, or you could they split it up in several different ways. Let's see, you could buy one small thing for 99 cents, you could pay like $5 for the whole game. Plague Inc. Evolved is for Windows instead of the phone, but it is about the same game with a little bit more, because around a year ago or so he came out with scenarios, and with the scenarios he asked everybody to pay some more on the cell phone game. So, but this is a small team of 6, so I really don't think he's too slimy about asking for money, and this is really my only conversation I'm gonna have about it. But when you buy it on the Windows version, you get everything that's available now. This is early access though, and so we're gonna point out some stuff, a lot of stuff I'm not even gonna bother showing on this first tutorial episode. Oh yes, and let me ask you on a personal level, if you have any ad blockers on, please whitelist me and turn those off. Help me make a living on this video series. Sorry, lost my thought for a second. Let's go ahead and get in the game. One of the things you're gonna see really fast in this compared to the cell phone version is that they have added some great designs and cool looking things, but they really haven't used the screen very well. I'm hoping that the interface gets a major overhaul before this is considered out of beta, but because there's just some big problems. We're gonna go through right here about 5 menus of back and continue that could have all just been one screen, and it's really strange, really strange when you look at the cell phone game, which it is just polished down to a T as far as the interface. It keeps you on the one screen that is the actual game. It makes all the selections of the menu of the starting up a game a lot better. So I don't know what they did, how they've dropped the ball so much. as this game is a strategy plague simulator, and so there are several types of plagues. Right now, the only one that's unlocked is bacteria and the simian flu, which was a tie-in with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I think this is kind of a cool way for him to get some back funding and add a plague that really makes sense. I mean, it's not like it's really crammed in there. But then you've got this trailer and this tie-in for this movie that's not in theaters and hasn't been in theaters for a very long time. So that's a little strange. Um, in the original cell phone games, you start with bacteria and you have to beat bacteria on normal or higher to unlock virus, and then you have to beat virus on normal or higher to unlock fungus, and then so on and so on and so on to unlock all of these other things. So there's going to be a lot of playing of bacteria at the start just to unlock the next one. And bacteria is kind of one of the hardest plagues that you can start off with. Now, next screen. Look at all this empty space. I mean, why did you need it? Why couldn't this selection screen been on this side? When you clicked on it, this been right to the right. Even on a small resolution screen, I think you could have fit these two. Next screen, you can modify your gene to get your plague to get little boosts, like get bonus DNA at the beginning. But all of these are locked, and only one unlocks every time you beat the game. Now, the trick here is it's beat the main game, but on any difficulty, it seems. Which is very important, because if we're going to try to play on normal, we're going to need some of those bonuses. We're not going to succeed on normal, let alone brutal or mega brutal, which are actual settings. You have casual, normal, brutal, mega brutal. Again, third scene. There was more than enough room to have the plague selection screen here, the gene here, and then the difficulty here. So I don't understand what they've done here on a lot of these interfaces. It's not just these. I will show you more. Uh, but the game has not been changed. The game is still the same game. The game is still fun. It's just they need some more polish for a Windows version. This is a really good study in translating a touchscreen cell phone game to a Windows game. So we're going to play on casual for quite a while until we can get some bonuses unlocked. And then I feel like I can actually win on normal. I've already tried to win on normal once and didn't work. I thought I could do it, but I couldn't. Now, some other things that you can unlock are cheats. Cheats are great for when you just want to totally break out of the system, have the strain be immune to being cured, having an unlimited amount of DNA points that you use to evolve your strain. Some other things here. Hidden strain, they can't ever detect it. But all of these require you beat the game on brutal, except for these two, which require you beat the game on mega brutal. And then you have this unknown coming in a future mutation. Something like this has been in Plague Inc. since the day of release, and I want to applaud he's actually stayed true. The creators have stayed true to that. They, on like every few months, do think of something new, and I'd say every 6 months or so, think of something new and put it in there, and they're still 3 years later supporting this game, which is great. So we can only really do casual at the moment and win. Games are gonna try and be as fast as possible, because this game could be pretty slow, and not a lot is going to happen. So here you can name your plague. I'm going to try and think up some funny names, but we will play as the default name Pax-12 this game. So this is the actual game part of the game. It says, welcome to Plague Inc. You're a new bacteria. To win, you must evolve and spread across the world, wiping out all humans in the ultimate plague. This is really where the unrealistic part of the game is too. You have to wipe out all humans. So if there's literally one person alive, you lose the game. And then we just saw all the things that we have to win the game at to unlock. So losing is particularly unwelcome. If I could do this whole series and not have any losses, I'm hoping that is the case, but it's probably not going to be, because it does have an interesting difficulty swing on it. So we select your starting location. Select a country to begin your plague. When you click on it, you see more information. Pop the start bubble to confirm, or click another country instead. So when I click China here, here's your start bubble. It shows you this. We can click on China. No, we can't actually. In the main part of the game, you can click and get more information, but you're locked out here on the selection. So all you can see is that it has land borders, it has ports, and it has an airports. So you also see its population. Starting in a big country is pretty good. Now they call these countries, but it's not really true. A great example here is Central Africa. There are many countries here, but they're just countries, tribes, whatever. It's just being all put together as one country, which is helpful because if you had to pick every single little, I mean, here's East Africa, another great example. If they split it up between every single little country, A, they'd have to update it every other week, and B, the game would be a lot harder because the disease has free reign to stay within its own borders. So this entire population will just pretty much get infected without you doing anything, but it has difficulty crossing borders. So it's not going to just go into Russia as easily as it will infect other people. It will do it, but not as easily. So what I like to start off with is Southeast Asia. There was an achievement in the cell phone game where North Korea would send like a rocket to the moon, and if you got Southeast Asia infected quick enough, you could infect them on the moon. Now, oddly, as far as I'm seeing, there's no access to any achievements in this early access. Nothing on the menu shows anything about talking about achievements. Achievements are kind of passé these days. I'm definitely over them. So I'm not really upset about it, but I would like to see some progress, and I'd like a little reward every now and then, and some of it still pops up and says you've got something. Now we can zoom in, which we can't do here. We couldn't do in the cell phone game, but there's no real reason to zoom in, because when you zoom in, you just take your eyes off the rest of the map, and you really need to watch the entire planet. And there's a little bit more detail on these graphics. Well, there's a lot more detail. Plus, you have these dynamic clouds, which I will show you later are actually a problem, even though they look cool, and I will have to turn them off. So let's go ahead and start the game. Now to start off here, you have a pause, a play, a fast forward, and a super fast forward. I'm gonna pretty much play the entire games on fast forward. So pop up here, pause the game. Anytime you are not in the direct overworld, even the pop-ups in any of the other screens, it pauses the game. There's an option to turn that off. I don't know why you would ever do that though. So it says Pax-12 begins in Southeast Asia. Pax-12 is infected. Its first humans weak and used to hot temperatures. It must evolve using DNA points to infect more people. Now the reason why it is used to hot temperatures is because I put it in a hot country. If I had put it in Russia, which is the cold country, it would be used to cold temperatures. That's important because if if you put it in a middle country like the US or China, it will not be as effective in the hot countries and cold countries. If you put it in a hot country, it will need help later on to get into cold countries. I almost always start in a hot country and then give it help to get into a cold country. If I start in a cold country, I have to give it help to work spread in a hot country. If you do normal, you kind of have to give it help to spread in both. So you click the DNA and it gets you a DNA point right here. This is the main part of the game, is you collecting DNA points and then you will spend DNA points. Now I've infected a certain number of people, I've gotten some extra DNA points that just pop up. So you have to kind of keep an eye here. So I wanted to go ahead and show the disease screen. Here is your overview disease screen, which we really don't have to look at. This game gives you tons of graphs, tons of stuff, and a lot of it is unimportant and not worth looking at. Your start date is the day you're playing the game, your plague type, how complex the bacteria here is, the number of daily infections, stuff like that, start location, difficulty. You get this graph. This graph might be a little bit useful. It's going to fill itself out later on. And this button here takes you to another graph screen where you can see, let's see. So this is showing you the infectivity, the severity, and the lethality. I will explain those later. Then on top of the graph, you have the ability to show three completely different things: the number of healthy people, the number of infected people, and the dead people. And that red line just disappeared, so maybe something glitched there. But that graph has nothing, the population graph has nothing to do with the disease graph, which it has nothing to do with the cure graph. So there's really no mathematical or scientific reason why you would have three graphs where you could toggle things and have them overlay, when in all actuality there should just be three graphs on the graph screen. And this one is just straight up infectivity, severity, and lethality, which is the same as these bars here. So this is getting to Excel levels of showing the same information over and over again. Let's get to the important screens of the disease screen. You have the transmission screen. This is just like the game this box here is. This part here that explains it would have popped up on the side. These parts here are new and they're mostly graphical. This is going to change a little bit as your bacteria evolves, and this is going to change, get redder to show what areas of the body your bacteria is affecting. Right now it's not really affecting anything, so the whole body is white. If you start giving it traits that affect the brain will get redder. If you start affecting the lungs will get redder. So this is where you spend your points. I'm going to start by trying to upgrade to water 1 and air 1, and then water 2, air 2, and then in the middle is a combined water and air. So you have to get water 2 upgraded and air 2 upgraded, then you can do the combined. This water allows the disease to travel by boat. Air allows the disease to travel by planes. Water 2 and air 2 spreads it even better. It increases the infectivity. When you highlight something, it shows you by how much it's going to change things. So it's not really going to make anything lethal, and it's not really going to increase the severity too much. But different options are going to increase the infectivity at different amounts by a small amount. Transmission, we want to get infectivity up as high as possible so we can infect the entire planet before they even notice the disease exists. So you have your symptoms here. Symptoms are mostly going to increase the severity and the lethality of your thing. So pretty severe upgrade, pretty severe not that severe, not that severe, not that severe. Some of these symptoms increase the infectivity too, and the ones that are down here in the middle are the ones that usually are the lethal ones. So you would want to, what you have to do to unlock them is work your way through this puzzle. Click this one, and click this one, click this one, and this one, and that will get you to total organ failure, which is I think the most lethal symptom you can have in the game. But then you want to probably get some other lethal ones, lethal symptoms too, to just kill people as fast as possible. Here is your abilities. The Evolve Cold Resistance, Evolve Cold Resistance 2, Evolve Drug Resistance. Then after you evolve Drug Resistance, you have a Drug Resistance 2, which I almost never use. And then you have Genetic Hardening, which makes it take longer for them to find the cure. As soon as they discover that the disease exists, they're going to start looking for a cure. Then you have this special ability, Bacterial Resistance, that is only for bacteria. And so you will have different abilities based on the different plagues you pick. And all of these could change a little bit, but they're mostly this is the default way transmissions are laid out. This is the default way symptoms are laid out. And then usually you have the cold and hot resistance and the drug resistance. And then this changes per plague. So that is the disease screen. Now here is just information screens that will tell you about the areas that you are going, and there is just tons of stuff, but I've decided to not bother to mention or look at these screens for this tutorial because they really don't matter. They will give you good information about how many healthy, how many infected. Right now we have Southeast Asian selected. We could go somewhere else. We can select the whole world, and we can get all kinds of information. This will give you info, a long world thing. This tells you traits of the country, whether it's a poor country, whether it's a hot or rural or urban or humid or dry, all kinds of stuff. You have the plus button that takes you back to the graph screen. Then you have the plus button here that takes you back to the graph screen. There's literally at least 4 or 5 different ways to get to the graph screen, which makes little sense. Here's the world screen button, which is that same screen but just talking about the whole world. This is useful a little bit to show which countries are completely healthy, which countries are infected, and which countries have been completely wiped out. This is a little helpful to tell you about the progress on the cure. This is how interested they are in finding the cure, how many borders have been shut down, how many ports have been shut down, how many airports have been shut down. This can tell you what kind of countries are cold or hot and all of that. And I'm going over these screens even though I said I wasn't going to. And so this here takes you to the world screen. This here takes you to whatever you've selected, but if you click on the water, you select the world, then it will take you back to the world screen. So you've got potentially 2 buttons to the world screen. All of this information was laid out way better in the cell phone version, but I can't record the cell phone version, and the gameplay is about the same. But I would recommend, you can get the cell phone version off Android at least for free, and then grind your way to unlock most things and not have to pay. The only thing you would ever have to really pay for would be the scenarios, and maybe you would be done with the game by the time that occurs. But so, even though it does have a lot of microtransactions, it's not a game where you can't grind around it. You could really, I never spent a dime on it. and I unlocked everything I wanted to. So here he says pop the orange bubbles to get DNA points. Pop orange bubbles when they randomly appear to get bonus DNA points, which you can use to evolve your disease. Now orange bubbles just randomly appear. Red bubbles show up when you infect a new country or kill a certain number of, well, if you kill a certain number of people you'll get DNA, but the bubbles won't show up. So the red bubbles only show up really, I think, when you infect a new country or do maybe some other stuff. So you want to click on them, get that DNA. Up here you have your news feed that's going to just always be scrolling news articles. A lot of them are BS and have nothing to do with anything. Some of them have some usefulness or talk about what's going on or give you hints on how you could change your disease to infect more people. And they've seemed to have started to implement a color coding system. So Pax-12 begins that in Southeast Asia. That is definitely talking about what we did in red. And then computer games industry going in the UK, that has nothing to do with anything, so it's in white. There's also an orange and a blue, I think, so maybe we'll figure out that. The only problem I have with the news section as compared to the original game is that it would scroll across the top and cut off maybe a little bit of Greenland here, and it was bigger text. I could use for a bigger text, I could use for it to go all the way to the edge here instead of stopping right up here. It's less prevalent. It's not an important part of the game though. Zoom was added, and then all these buttons were added. In the cell phone game, there is a button here that just says disease. Over here, there's a cure thing that shows how fast the cure is progressing, and then a lot of the information that's being shown here wasn't shown at all until you would click on the middle. So they are getting a little bit more information prevalent up front on this part, but this part is exactly like the cell phone game. This is almost exactly like the cell phone game. They hid the fast forward and pause options in the cell phone game, which I think they kind of improved that by not hiding that. So let's continue with the game. Sorry, now we start playing for real. I have 8 DNA. I need 9. Now every time you upgrade something, the cost goes up. So see how this is 9 and this is 9? When I evolve it, just double click it to evolve it. So this is 16, but this is 10. So everything's gonna go up for 1 DNA point every time you upgrade something on transmissions. Now the cost for these has not changed. This was 2, this will stay at 2 until I evolve some symptom, then this will go up to 3. Same is true for here. So each one of these screens are not affected by the other screens in that fashion. Bacteria has the ability, or maybe it's a bug, if you devolve something you will always get 2 DNA points back. So use that to your advantage while it's still there, because some of these transmission things or just random chance will mutate your disease and give it a symptom. Often you don't want a symptom at the beginning of the game because you want to make sure everybody's infected before it gets noticed. So devolve that symptom, get some DNA. We've successfully evolved Pax. There are a lot of pop-up screens I'm going to turn off. There is an option for extra pop-ups. I'll show you how to turn that off, and that's going to make these games a lot faster. Pax-12 is beginning to spread. You get little red dots here as it's spreading. Those red dots are mostly random, but they get redder and redder until the whole country is solid red. Think what would happen in real life. Plague Inc. is a hyper-realistic model of the world. Plan your strategy and evolve your disease according to its spread. It still needs some work if it wants to be completely hyper-realistic, because I disagree. I think some of the things are unrealistic, like in particular that you have to kill every single human, which is highly unlikely. There's gonna be somebody living in a cave somewhere. So another orange bubble. I'm playing it on fast forward helps a lot, because it speeds the game up. Normally I'd say play on regular speed and pause when you need to think things through, especially if it's the first time you've ever played Plague Inc. Here's a news thing: Danish Mafia becoming too powerful. Recent events involving the Danish Mafia have prompted the German Chancellor to commission a new investigation into organized crime and antisocial behavior. So if this is actually a useful pop-up, but it would be very hard for you to figure out what you're supposed to do here. What you'd want to do is give your disease symptoms that would increase antisocial behavior and violent actions. Now, I don't have at the moment enough DNA to do that, but if you did, you could potentially have the entire country of Finland, wherever the Danish are, Denmark. Yeah, Denmark. Yeah, the entire country of Denmark could be destroyed, and that would be to your advantage. So, to find out more about a country, click the country's name at the bottom of the screen to open the country menu. So right now we're on the world. If we click China, then we can click the name and get back to this screen. Pax-12 has infected hundreds. It's going to say when we infect hundreds, it's going to say when we infect thousands and millions, and then it's going to start saying, comparing it to other diseases that have happened in the real world. Alright, I have 21 DNA. I haven't been paying attention to that fast enough, and so I'm gonna spend that and upgrade my disease some more. Increased rainfall in humid countries. That means that the disease would spread in humid countries better, and particularly if I give it transmission abilities in humid let's see. So, which one is humid countries? So, water is humid countries. So, since we were gonna evolve that anyways, that is great news. Now, it's 16 to evolve this, and it's 10 to evolve this. So I'm gonna spend 26 either way, if I evolve this first or if I evolve this. But since I just got a tip that there's gonna be increased rainfall in humid countries, it is to my advantage to evolve this. That's going to increase the infection rate. Now it's only in one country at the moment. We haven't seen a red dot pop up, so it has yet to leave Southeast Asia. Now we're gonna see pretty soon there's gonna be a red ship go to some other country. Right now we're seeing white ships. That's an infected ship, and it's going to leave a little red dot showing its path to the next country. This is where the dynamic clouds don't work, and I'm gonna have to turn them off. Is I cannot see the little red dots because the clouds are a little too distracting. So our disease has now popped some red bubbles, and because of that, we have gone. Well, actually, because we've gone to other countries, we've gotten red bubbles. So it's starting to spread, and it's going to get out of hand really fast. I have 19 DNA. We're infecting more countries. Most of these pop-ups go away when you turn off the extra pop-ups, and that helps a lot to speed up the game. So we are now more infectious than TB or tuberculosis. So if you thought tuberculosis was pretty infectious, not really, because we've just gotten worse. Well, actually tuberculosis is pretty infectious, but so now we've become more infectious than HIV. So we are working our way to be an ultimate plague. So look here, you see the little red dots here on the path? That's what I'm talking about, and you just can't see them that well. I can kind of see them, but not as much as I should. We will also start seeing red lines in a second, and those will be the air paths. So the airplanes will get infected, taking the disease to faraway lands. So I've got both air 2 and water 2. Now I can do extreme bioaerosol, which makes it more effective in both humid and arid climates and on planes and ships. And that's going to cost me 12 DNA. But I like this as a standard way of playing, because you've got to get these islands. And so you're either going to get the islands infected by boat or plane, because it will not cross borders. Diseases don't just cross oceans. It will cross borders at a slow rate, but not oceans. Diseases just don't cross oceans. I think they probably kind of do on a rare occasion, but not in this game. Here we have the medicine in the UK is slowing infection. UK is a wealthy country with high quality healthcare. To spread faster, you need to evolve drug resistance. So we get that. Drug resistance is this ability here. It is 11 DNA. So we will try and get 11 DNA, and the world menu contains useful data. Sorta. Yes, it does, but it has a lot of gobbledygook too. It's a mess, these menus. There we go. Now I have enough. So drug resistance 1 is what I want to enable. I almost never do drug resistance 2 because it costs 26 DNA points, whereas genetic hardening only costs 8, and I almost do want to do that as soon as I get found out. But I mostly want to do this. Just get the transmission out. Nobody has discovered the disease yet. It doesn't have any symptoms, so the only way it could potentially be found would be if it was just randomly found in some lab test. So we are now more infectious than the common cold. So this is an interesting point that people should take. You think HIV, that's a horribly infectious disease. Well, the common cold is way more infectious, and way more people get it. The only difference is HIV is potentially a death sentence, where the common cold is very unlikely to kill you. It's the symptoms that are different, not the infectiousness. We're getting this crisscross now of infected planes taking it everywhere. Oh, and it's not getting in the cold regions very well because I forgot to increase the ability to work in colds. So now it should start infecting the cold areas. You want to do that pretty fast. So this is kind of the only point where you might be able to sit back and relax a little bit as you let the rest of the world get infected. We have probably about 25% of the world already infected. As it gets redder, redness is infected, blackness is dead people, blue is healthy people. So coughing has mutated. We don't want coughing yet because that does increase the severity just a little bit, and I don't want people to go to the doctors and get the disease found out. So on the level of how to rate this game, it's a little strange. You are playing as the bad guy, as the plague here, but this is the level of the game. There's no blood, there's no gore, there's no anything really as far as objectionable material. It's just the concept of trying to kill the entire planet because you're playing as a plague. I would probably think a lot of parents would be fine if kids played this in a health class in school, but there might be a few parents that would say no, and I would say this is probably at least PG-13-ish as far as the age rating. So we're getting all kinds of countries infected now. Soon the whole planet is going to be bright red with the infectiousness. And we are getting a huge stockpile of DNA, but that DNA is going to get spent real fast. Alright, so here's a pop-up that is useful. Some of them are useful, some of them aren't. The Festival of Love is going to happen in the Central Europe. Central Europe celebrates the Festival of Love. Fans praise the replacement for International Kissing Day. Critics question the hygiene standards. So, what this is telling you is if I go and increase nausea, evolved nausea, I will increase the risk of infection and possibly infect the entire festival. This is also very unrealistic. There's no way in my mind that diseases are going to know that the Festival of Love is coming and evolve a symptom. But then there's really no way for the plagues to decide what they're going to evolve, and then there's really... So having control over a bacteria, it's silly. It's like you're custom evolving it yourself, and that's not how real evolution works. You just get random things, and the ones that work out are the ones that survive. The ones that don't work out are the ones that don't survive. You want to keep tight eyes on these islands, these little places. So we've evolved a symptom I don't want, cysts, which I just don't want to increase the severity too much. As soon as they find the disease, they'll start working on a cure. As soon as they realize the disease is deadly, they'll start working on the cure really, really hard. And so, we gotta keep an eye on that. It looks like we're gonna make it. It looks like we're gonna be able to infect the entire planet before anybody notices that the plague even exists. Here's your Pax-12 needs to evolve to kill. Pax-12 has infected most of the world. In order to kill people, you must evolve lethal advanced symptoms using DNA points. That's true, but it's not the time. It's not the time when you have 99% of the people infected. Even this 9 million could potentially beat you of healthy people. So it's not ready. Notice here we are at global priority 0. They haven't discovered it. Nothing's been shut down. Every single country is infected. Almost the entire population is infected. There's a high potential of finding the cure though. 100% of all the labs are still able to be made active. Now, on other types of diseases, you can destroy research labs. On bacteria, you really can't. You could get lucky and maybe cause 1 or 2 to be destroyed. Cause anarchy. We will start doing that as soon as we get that all-important pop-up that's going to come up in a few seconds. There are no healthy people left in the world. This is the most important pop-up. The last healthy person on the planet recently became infected. So at this point is the time to start evolving, because it's in everybody, and unrealistically your evolution is going to change the disease in everybody. Which isn't true. There's no way that you could make one strand evolve and it would change all of it. So it's this godlike power you have where you can just globally change a disease. But whatever. I have a stockpile of 129 DNA. Now, when I start killing people, I'll get some more DNA. But they're gonna start noticing it, so what I want to do is increase the cure time. How long it takes them to find a cure. So I do genetic hardening 1, I do genetic hardening 2. Now we have a genetic reshuffle here, which will take, if the cure is at 5%, it'll take it down to maybe 1%. And so there's a genetic reshuffle 1, 2, and 3. I'd recommend you do them pretty early. But that's as much as I can do on the ability screen to make it harder for them to cure it. But there are some symptoms that make it harder. There is insomnia. It makes people less productive. There is paranoia. It makes people less likely to go to a doctor. There are seizures, which makes them makes it harder for them to think. And then there is insanity, which makes it significantly harder to cure. So this disease is just going to drive people crazy. Now I have 55 more DNA. This is inflammation. It doesn't make it harder to cure, but this is paralysis, which makes it significantly harder to cure and can be lethal. So then you have coma here, which is significantly harder to cure, or I can increase the lethality with dysentery. And that's what I need to do. Is I would like to do coma and make it harder to cure, but it won't increase the lethality much. This will increase the lethality a lot more. So we institute dysentery, complete breakdown of the digestive system. So we've worked our way backwards to this. We could now unlock these. Almost all of these increase infectivity more, and so they're not really where we want to go with it. We want to go here and here to total organ failure. So that's where we're going to go. We're not going to get any more red bubbles because there are no more countries to infect, but we will get DNA, just +1 DNA as people die. So here is the pop-up that says they have found the disease. In a normal checkup, a doctor in Colombia found a new disease which has been named Pax-12. It appears to be mostly harmless, but is being investigated further. So their hypersensitivity mutated. Good. It's good to have a mutation. That's free symptom now. Here's your first death in Southeast Asia. Let's see. So they've gone from, they discovered it, that's 1, first death, that's 2. You'll see several other pop-ups that will increase it. There's only 20% of the 100% labs are working on a cure at the moment. This will pop up to 100% if I can't kill everybody in the country. If I do kill everybody in the country, then they can't use it, and then that's like destroyed labs. So they're taking a medium priority to it, but it's gonna skyrocket very fast as more and more people die to a maximum priority. Saudi Arabia shuts down its airports. That's the first country to shut down its airports. So let's see. Tip, fight the cure. There are 2 ways to fight development of the cure. Evolve aggressive symptoms to destroy countries, which is more noticeable, or evolve cure resistance, which is less noticeable. I've kind of done both. I did genetic hardening, and I made insanity a symptom. I want to pause for a second here. let's see. So here's your Saudi Arabia, and here's the airport, and you see just a little X over it. When you click it, it is closed, but the ports and the borders are still open. As they start shutting down countries, you're going to get X's over all the ports and airports and all of that. We're going to start seeing eventually a cure blue bubble pop up. It doesn't get you DNA, but you need to click on it to slow down the process. They're already at 4% on the cure. Global research is focused on the cure. So when we click here, we're at 5 of 6. 23 borders have been shut down, 7 ports, 6 airports. It didn't show you a pop-up for each one of those, just the first one. So if you really are that interested, you would have to come back to the screen a lot. And so we've destroyed some countries or some labs already. Here is a good time to look at the graph and just show as it fills in. Here's your healthy population is a direct mirror of your infected population until you start getting the dead population in, and then it becomes a three-way calculation. And so it's not even been updated that well. They need to work on their graph infected update thing, their graphing technology. So here's your disease scale, and as we got every single one of these bumps, these square jumps up, that was an increase in transmission ability. And right here was when we bumped up some symptom that increased our severity. Otherwise, severity and lethality have stayed right where they were at. And this is when we had everybody infected. So I skyrocket the symptoms, which still increases the infectivity a little bit because some of the symptoms do that, but it skyrockets the severity and the lethality. I wish I could have gotten the lethality higher so people would die even faster. And so then you have the third graph. Here's what the cure requirement has been, and this is the level that the cure has been worked on. Here's when the disease was discovered, and so I jacked up the requirement quite a lot, and now they're starting to work on it. Again, there's no reason though to have all of these graphs overlay. This doesn't make any sense. You're talking about 3 different things. It doesn't have any reason whatsoever. Let's go over here to the overview screen. This is fine, but why does this need to also be in this? Just these menus are crazy. Notice that there's way more bacteria in the picture now, and they have little flanges. That's because you have a standard complexity genetic thing now. Still at daily infection 0 because I've already infected everybody. The average infections was this amount. This average will probably go down as the days go by, and the daily deaths and average deaths will go up as I'm killing more people. Very infectious, very severe, not lethal enough disease. I want that lethality, so I want 29 DNA. I've killed more people than the Black Death. That's a good reference. I've killed about 100 million. Now I've killed more than the Spanish flu at about 160 million. Orange bubbles still will randomly pop up, and that's the game's way of balancing it and making sure. The Middle East is about to break down. It is beginning to break down, so cure research is going to be slower. They're at 15%. So now 100% is infected, and the dead is growing in the world. We want this all black. I've killed more people than smallpox. %25 of the cure is done. Come on, give me a little bit more DNA. I am mutating some symptoms, but you really can't rely on the symptoms being mutated. If you want to rely on all these symptoms being mutated, you would have to have upgraded a lot of these that increase the chance of mutation a lot more. I need 29, but it might be smarter to do 22 and do a genetic reshuffle. Now the genetic reshuffle reassembled more work needed to develop the cure. Does it make it harder? I don't know. I don't know if it just sets them back. Mexico leading the global cure effort. So now we start seeing the blue cure bubbles. Just speeding up. Blue cure bubbles appear when the research team from Mexico finds something. Pop them to destroy their research and stop the cure speeding up. So you really want to click these, and you'll see a blue plane. It'll drop it off one place and then go back and then hit it again. I have 21 DNA now. I have not seen anything. Now when it is put on a watch list in the cell phone game, that would unlock an achievement. But again, this game seems to not have that integrated or showing anywhere, because you don't get a pop-up or anything. It's kind of fine with me. I kind of miss it, but not that much. So the cure was at pretty high. Let's do a genetic reshuffle and see where it's at. It went down from 48 to 43. This is not working as well as I'd want. We may not win here, even on casual. Even playing as a filthy casual, we still may lose. This game can be somewhat random. There's some randomness in it. And we're not getting enough DNA from the people dying. And we're not killing enough. Pax-12 genome has been fully sequenced. World Health Organization, that's who is? WHO, World Health Organization. Researchers say that the breakthrough will help the cure efforts. So 56, 59, 60, that sped up the cure. And that was nothing we did really. That was just the game do a little monkey wrench. It's good this game has some random elements, because otherwise the game would be exactly the same every single run. And this is all there is to the game, is this screen and playing like this. And picking what things you're going to evolve. If we kill enough people, it will slow down the research. But not fast enough. Research level high. There is actually a dollar amount that each country is spending when you click on a country, of how much they're spending on medical research and their rank, and how many of their labs are looking for it. And here's your just history of all the government actions that have taken place. Research funding level 1, 2, 3. They start handing out water, bottled water, face masks. Research funding 4 and 5. They mobilize teams. They start getting rid of dead bodies. Research level 6. They close their land borders. 7. Airports are closed. Curfews are enabled. It's just research funding 10. All public buildings, mass graves, ports are closed. That's strange that the ports are closed after they start using mass graves. They set up trauma centers, and then right here, martial law has been declared, so nobody's even allowed on the streets. So this whole country is destroyed. And so it's showing you these pictures, and it's making them a little bit redder. This animation's cool for flavor and all. It's not really telling you anything though. It's just showing you pictures of what? Now it says business as usual. If I can find general disruption, there's widespread disorder. Here you have a picture of the police. Let's see if there's one that's worse than widespread disorder. Here you have pictures of people fighting the police in Central Europe. So they've edited in some pictures of like mob riot crews into the pictures to flavor it up, but not really that useful. The cure is 75% complete. Wow. So at this point you should pretty much understand how the game is going to be played. I'm definitely not going to spend much of any time explaining anything else in future episodes of this series. We're going to go through this and we're going to unlock as much as we possibly can, probably all of it, and so stick to that. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and look at my playlists on my YouTube channel and subscribe to my YouTube channel too. But look at my playlist and see all my other series that I've already released and watch some of those too. Definitely, those are all very different games. There's a playlist called Spotlights, check that out. That's little spotlights of games. Either I played them all the way to the end, or or I just played a little bit and then want to make a whole series out of it. 95% completed the cure. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please, you can follow me on Google Plus or Twitter, or you can friend me on Steam or Battle.net. Battle.net is for my Hearthstone series. That's my series where I talk about what's going on my channel and my and in my life. So if you want to watch that, watch the first one if you don't know how to play Hearthstone, and then jump to the latest one to see what's going on somewhat, even though I do release episodes about a month behind when they were actually recorded, because I just have so much and that makes it so much easier. I have over 300 episodes of game footage. There's lots of things for you to go watch. Please watch them all. I also have fan funding enabled, so if you go to my main YouTube page, you can donate some money to me, and that would be definitely appreciated. So the cure for Pax-12 is complete. The game hasn't ended here, doesn't end here. They still have to distribute the cure, and I could do a genetic reshuffle if I had enough DNA. So what they're going to start doing is start increasing the blue back here. I cannot do the genetic reshuffle though, because I need 27 DNA. So I don't see a way I'm going to win this one. Very quickly the cure gets distributed. Very unlikely that the cure would be distributed this fast and organized, but whatever. Again, if this wants to be a hyper-realistic simulation, it needs to rethink how fast some of this stuff happens. Because in reality, most diseases, at least one person is living in a cave, so they never get infected. At least one person gets infected and then lives in the cave, so it evolves a new strand and then comes out a year later and reinfects the entire population. That's certainly how flu hits us every flu season. Cysts have mutated here. That's not going to help us any. They've almost completely eliminated it. We've killed over 50% of the population, and you'd think that would be worth something, and it is for points, but not. It doesn't beat the game. I think probably in this game the concept of winning or losing should probably be eliminated. It should just be play the game so many times, and every time you play the game to completion, you unlock something. Because winning on this can be very hard. A lot of the games I play, winning is really difficult. We were playing on casual and we still didn't pull it off. And that's just some randomness to it, really. We will get it done. It will get easier as we unlock more abilities. As a basic bacteria with no modifications, it's probably the hardest it's gonna be. So Pax-12 is about to be eradicated. The world has survived a devastating plague and will soon eradicate Pax-12 forever. Although much of the world is dead, the survivors can rebuild and carry humanity forwards. I didn't even kill enough to get the world has changed forever ending. So I have 13 disease. I could try something, but nothing's gonna change anything. It's about to be completely eradicated. Only a genetic reshuffle would save me here, and it almost never does because it's just gonna they're just gonna work on the cure again and find it very fast. There's 0 infected. Greenland is in anarchy, and this fall no cure research can take place. So if we could have made more countries in anarchy, then that would have helped. So if we go to Greenland, didn't make it. So defeat. We have been defeated. And Pax-12 has been eradicated. So here's your score. This is a very cool feature here. This is your whole game. Each second is about a day. And we can just fast forward and watch the whole game we've just played. And watch as the disease spreads. It'll flicker through these pictures and what it was at. We played for 793 days, so a little less than 3 years. And we got the complexity up to complex, but the cure got to 100% and beat us. So we only got one level out of one biohazard out of 5 as our rank, and we only got a score of 48, which is a pretty bad score. It's pretty low because you can get it up to the thousands. Here you have your social media integration, which is in the cell phone game. It makes more sense, but it's here if you want to email your score or put it on Twitter or share it on Facebook. I would say be careful about this because people are gonna think you're just crazy. My bacteria called Pax-12 just got eradicated in this so many days. Well, if you had won the game, it would have said it just killed all of humanity or something like that. So here at day 793 is where the game ends, and it stops. Even though it's on fast forward, we can reset it to the beginning if we wanted to and watch it all over again. So these numbers are changing as the days go. So you can watch progress, do some research, click here for your graphs. Here's your graph screen again. So that's 4 or 5 different ways to get to the graph screen. And then we're back to the main screen. Big problem here about just using your footage. Your square footage on this. There's just no reason why you're gonna have all this empty space and not do it. I love the trailer at the beginning, but I'm gonna turn it off. We're not gonna ever watch that again. And maybe the trailer should be playing or some other video in the middle just to keep people's attention, but mostly just keep all of these screens on one page. So when you click single player, why does this box not show up just in the middle here? When you click main game and play, alright, that might be should be your second screen, not your third screen. So we're going to do the main game. Then we're going to do the official scenarios, which come with buying this game. So you do buy this game. Then you could get custom scenarios if you wanted. And then, but we're not going to do that in this series. We will do speed runs, and that's just how fast can we win the game. And then I'd love to do tutorial, but no tutorial in this version. So you've just seen as good of a tutorial as you can. But actually there is, strangely, when you are in the game, if you go to the options, or let's see, or you go to help and info here and click how to play, there is a little bit of explanation of a lot of stuff. So just no straight up tutorial. So this game comes with multiplayer. That's certainly nothing. That's something that's not in the cell phone version. It comes with a scenario creator. I've looked at that. It needs some work, but it's a good start if you want to create your own scenarios. And then it has leaderboards, which don't think there was any of that in the cell phone game version. Maybe there was. I don't ever sign in. So let's look at the options here. I just want to show you what we're going to turn off. We're going to turn off the trailer. Now, this first one says interface, normal or simple. I would love for a simple interface, but it doesn't seem to exist. When I switch this from normal to simple, nothing changes whatsoever. So early access, hopefully they will come back and create a simple interface. I hope that's what this is a promise to make a simpler interface, make these screens work better. It doesn't really matter, we're just going to immediately jump into the game on all the other episodes. I am going to turn off extra pop-ups, so no more tips, no more pop-ups that don't really relate or have anything to do with anything. On your audio, I have the volume down to 25% because that's just how the mix of me talking and the audio, hopefully that's a good mix. We have the resolution at 1080p. I turned it up to this. It's targeting 60 frames per second, but it could go as far as 144. And with such simple graphics, it doesn't surprise me for a second if you would be able to do that. I'm not using VSync. When you hover over these buttons, it will explain somewhat, but not a lot. And then when you hover over the question marks, sometimes it doesn't explain it. So I think there's a few bugs in this. I turned on anisotropic. That is more detailed, but I'm going to turn off dynamic effects. That's just the clouds. Particle effects I can leave on. I turned them off and I didn't see any difference. And so all that. There are several keys that you could play on the keyboard, but frankly I would recommend playing with a mouse and keyboard, and just use the Q button if you're going to use any key. That's the only button I've used in the entire game, is the Q button to bring up the Z screen. And then accessibility. Font mode is coming in a future mutation. That would be good if we could get the font a little bit bigger. So that'll be cool. Now on this screen there's an apply changes. On none of the other screens there's an apply changes. I don't know why. But usually it's a bad idea to change your resolution when I'm recording and all, but I'll go ahead and do it. Why not? Since I'm just turning off dynamic effects. And that is it for this tutorial and first episode. We will play on casual until we unlock some good genetic modifications. Hopefully we win next time. I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna make an episode for every time I play and release that daily, Monday through Friday at noon Central Time, as the episode. So this is the wrap up of my every episode. I I have a lot I've already brought up about. Go check my playlist, go see my other things. So my normal wrap up is, as always, I ask that you like, share, subscribe, comment if you want to. Comment on the videos, that helps me. Watch every second of my videos, that helps me. Fan fund me, that really helps me. If you want to follow me on Twitter or Google Plus or friend me on Steam or Battle.net, all that information is listed below. So check that out in the description, and you will be given the information how to friend me and follow me on those media things. And then I say thank you for watching. Sorry this was a long one. Tutorial episodes always end up being long episodes. But thank you for watching and sitting through this. This will get faster and quicker paced on all the other episodes. And have a good evening. Bye.